Hi, hopefully all of you are doing good. In the previous video we are basically working on this visualizing MNIST dataset, right? And in the previous video we have developed basically this drill down functionality where upon clicking on this pie chart for any label, it's basically randomly choosing an image from that set. Like let's say for label 6 we have 5918 images, right? So it is choosing randomly from there and it is displaying an image over here, right? Similarly for other labels as well. Now there we left with two issues. If I just go back to the code, the first issue was like we were calling this guy again because we already called this guy in another callback, if you see it here, right? So we had to call it again because we want to use this variables over here, this data over here. Now that was the one issue, and the second most important issue was like we wanted to achieve this functionality for both of this chart here, right? So currently we have only for the training dataset chart, but we have not implemented the same stuff for the testing dataset chart as well, right? So that's there. So probably in this video we will try to work on this part, like by clicking on any of these pie charts, it should show the images over here from the corresponding data sets over there. And as well as we will do another small improvement here. If you see, like by default when I am not clicking on any charts, this particular card is coming up, right, which is not looking good. So we'll be building this card dynamically whenever I will be clicking on this one, right? And also in the card header we will try to display like from which data set this image is getting picked up, what is the index size, right, as well as which digit I have clicked over here. So that thing we will display in the cards header as well. So let's go one by one. So first thing is how to identify which chart I have clicked. Okay, so this is the classic example of callback context. So if we go to advanced callback, now there is a concept called callback context. That means let's say for a particular callback you have a lot of inputs, right? Now one of those inputs may trigger this particular callback, right? Now to identify which input is basically triggering this particular callback, so there is a thing called callback context which is readily available inside a callback. Okay, so you do not need to pass it as an input or state over there. Whenever you are defining a callback, that callback context object will be automatically available for us. Now there are a lot of concept, like if you see, like you can import this callback context by something like dash.callback_context or ctx, right? So let us do that one. So from our code, from how neural network learns, so let's go to home. From dash we are already importing DCC, right? So we can also import the ctx over here. So this is the first thing to use the callback. So let's stop the server for now. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now the callback context object has lot of properties like the trigger ID or trigger props ID or args grouping. Now depends on different scenarios, we will be using one of these properties here. Now trigger ID means like the ID of the component which basically triggered this particular callback. It's a very simple stuff and which we will be using it in this particular video as well. Now trigger props ID, basically it have a dictionary, okay, and it will have all the different component IDs and their properties that triggered the callback. Now we can use this one as well in our callback, but for this one you need to basically parse that particular dictionary and see it. Okay, probably we will see this two structure today, try to see the two structure today and see like how it differs. Now args grouping is basically a special thing. We maybe in future we will be defining this one as well. So this is called the flexible callback signatures. Probably like let's think of one scenario where your callback will have let's say thousands of inputs, right? So instead of defining those thousands as inputs, you may create a dictionary kind of thing and pass it as a single input. That you can do it. Okay, so this is called the flexible callback signature, which we still not discussed. And if you are using flexible callback signatures, you have to use the arg grouping of the context object there. Okay, so as for us, we are doing a simple stuff. We will be doing the trigger ID first. Okay, so in our callback, so this is where we are creating those drill down here, right? So let's do one thing here. I will let's say callback underscore source. Okay, I'll say ctx dot trigger ID. Now if I just print this guy, print the callback source. Okay, so let's see what is happening. But before that, let us try to check the two graphs we have created. We have given some ID or not. I think we have given in the last video itself. So if you see, like, we have this training and testing div over here, and the figure, we have given the training figure and the testing figure as well as ID over there, right? So let us run it and try to see what it is printing when we are clicking on different charts. Okay, so it loaded. So currently I am clicking on label 3 of the training chart, right? So it displayed that image, and if I just see it, so this is the training figure, our callback source, right? So now these things we basically printed for that, this one. If I just go back, we printed the possible indices and choose an index. Probably I will stop these two printing now. Okay, so that we can have better view. So now let it load. So if I click on training dataset distribution, our callback source is training figure. That means the figure object we have defined for the training, right? Now if I just click on over here, the callback, now it is not printing anything. Let us see that one, because we have not given that input, right? So you have to give that input over here, then only it will be able to capture whether this particular input is triggering the callback or not, right? So here, instead of training figure, we will be passing the testing figure, right? This is our testing pie chart, and as we have added another input, we will be basically have to pass it in our method as well, right? So now let's name it differently. Now for the training figure, I will name it as drill down underscore data underscore training. Okay, now wherever we have the drill down data, for now I'll just pass it. Okay, so hopefully this is fine. For the testing figure, I will pass it as testing here, right? So hopefully code wise we are fine for now. Let's see now. So training one, training figure, if I click over here, it should show the testing figure. That means we are able to capture the callback source. Now using this callback source, now we will be displaying that graph, right? That below image over there. Now we know which graph we are clicking on, right? So we can just easily see with this one. So I can write, if my callback source is our training figure, that means this guy over here, the ID of the training pie chart, right? So then I can compute the clicked label. This guy is common for both of this, so I will just keep it outside here. Okay, our main data set. So now then possible indices, then we will be having the chosen index, right? And then we will be displaying that index over here. For now, let's remove this to print, as well as remove this blank line as well. Okay. Now similarly, I will do it for the testing figure as well. If my callback is testing figure, right? My click label will be not the drill down data training, it will be drill down data testing, correct? Then possible index, instead of y train it will be y test here, right? And then from the x train, instead of x train it will be our test data set over there, right? The test array over there. So that's my 2 callbacks. So let's see that first, whether it is working or not. So there are some errors. Okay, so it has to be double equals to, we are testing a condition over here, right? So let's see it now whether this is working or not. So let it load. So once I click on label 3, it should display from the training dataset. Once I click on level 7, it should display from the testing dataset, right? So now, as I said, we will be creating this card on the fly, right? So what we'll do is, we have defined the card somewhere here, right? So card label image display. So what we'll do is, instead of defining the card static way, we'll be basically defining the card inside our callback, and here we will just keep a div over here which will be updated there, right? So now if you see it like card label image display, so instead of keeping the div inside the card, so we will just update this div over here itself. Okay, so that the whole card will be inside this div only. I will comment out this one, and then what I'll do is, I will copy this guy and I will keep it over here. Okay, so for this one, and instead of returning the graph, we will be basically returning the full card over here, right? And the card should be displaying this particular graph over here. So let's do this Control X and put it over here and return this guy over here. Okay, and I think there is some indentation issue, so I'll fix that one. Now this is the card header and card body. I think what we need to return is over here is this object over here. So this object, like this is a card object, then we have color equals to primary and outline equals to true. I think this should be fine. Let us see that. So once it is deployed, if you see, like by default now that particular blank card is not displaying at all. Once I click on label 0, the card is getting displayed over here with the image. Similarly for label 4 from the testing dataset, also it is displaying over here properly, right? Now one thing is left is changing this guy, right? So let us change that. So this is in the card header, right? Whatever we have defined it over here. So what we can do is, we will say source dataset. Okay, source dataset, that means we have to basically tell what is the source dataset, either testing or training. So for that, what we can do is, we can name it as source underscore data set equals to blank. Okay, now once we are inside the training figure, I will just say source data set equals to training in G, and whenever we are inside the testing figure, I will just say testing over here. Okay, so we can use this source data set dot, we'll say format, and then we will just say source dataset. So that will be working as a source dataset for us, right? Now second thing we need is the clicked image, right? Clicked image. For that, what we'll be doing, which one is the click label, we can just use this click label over here, right? So this is our string, so we can use this one. And now the third thing is chosen index here, right? So for this one, let's use choose an index over here, comma, this one here. Okay, so this should be fine. So let's test it out. So let it deploy. So once I clicked on label 3, which is having 6131 images total, and if you see it, the training data set, the clicked image is 3, and this particular whatever image is displaying, because we have total 60,000 images over there, right? So this particular image is at actually 54,413 index there. Okay, similarly for level 9, so this is basically displaying from this guy over here. Okay, so and it is the data set is testing over here. So that means at least we know which chart we have clicked, which image we are displaying it over here, right, and from which index basically it is displaying it over here. So at least we will get a better view of the data set. Now probably it is the time for us to go to the next step, where we will be basically analyzing how a neural network learns this one and how it can predict this one as well. Okay, so hopefully this video was helpful. See you in the next video.